Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, April 22nd, 2025, and it's 5:30 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting of the Harrison Village Council to order. I'd like to start by acknowledging that our meeting takes place on the traditional territory of the Stahelis. There are no public hearings tonight, so on our agenda we go to item 4, introduction of late items. Are there any late items to introduce tonight? Seeing none, I will go to agenda item 5, approval of the agenda. Can I have a move by Councillor Vital? Seconded by Councillor Fascio. I'm gonna have to get my head used to turning quickly here. Any discussion on that motion? I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. Any declarations of conflict of interest on matters pertaining to our agenda tonight? Seeing none, I will move to item 7 on our agenda, which is adoption of council minutes.
Move, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. Item 8 on our agenda tonight is business arising from the minutes. Is there any business arising from the minutes this evening? Seeing none. Corporate Officer, are there any delegations or petitions this evening? There are none. Which takes us to item 10 on our agenda, which is correspondence. Could I have a motion to receive the correspondence? Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And the correspondence is received. Item 11 is business arising from correspondence. Councillor Schweinbanz.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. On page 15 of our package is the letter with regards to the Prostate Cancer Foundation. I think it might be worthwhile to see if council and staff would be willing to comply with their request to do the blue light program. Prostate cancer is a deadly cancer for lots of men, and I think it would be nice to highlight that as a village. Thank you.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbanz. Seconded by Councillor Fascio, a motion to have a blue light. Question for our CEO. Is it possible, I recall the Purple Lights campaign, we were able to have some lights purple. Are we able to do the same, to have a blue light or blue lights?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. We can definitely light up the village. We have the EMB that is out in front of the village. We have the plaza with the ability to change lighting, and then also where the bandstand is.
The correspondence, Councillor Schweinbanz talked about the entire month of September is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, and they're suggesting a day or a week. Did your motion include a particular day or week for having a blue light?
Thank you. If not the entire month, then perhaps the week when we do the Terry Fox run, that might be appropriate. But I'm open to the idea. I think it'd be worthwhile at least doing it for a week, sometime in September. Thank you.
CEO Cook, a suggestion perhaps?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I believe the request is for the month of September. We could certainly meet that requirement. We'll just set it and forget it, and we can have it up for the whole month.
Any other discussion on the motion? I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. Any other, Councillor Vital, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Regarding the last letter from the City of Pitt Meadows, I just wanted to make council aware that this resolution will be presented next week at our conference. I am in support of the resolution, and hopefully the rest of council, when it comes to voting on that resolution, will support it. Thank you.
Councillor Schweinbanz.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I support this as well for the most part. There's a couple things that concern me. The first one, well, the main one is on page 21. They speak of item 2018 B105, which seeks taxation reform measures to prioritize and promote the use of agricultural land reserve lands for primarily farm uses. My concern is that, it's our land is our most valuable asset, but what we're seeing is with tourism-related activities on farmland, such as cideries, breweries, farmhouse restaurants, creameries on Seabird Island. And in fact, tonight we're going to be talking about our own ALR land, potentially having some different activities with trails and disc golf. So my only concern is that farm use priority. I hope that they can expand that, not to include industrial waste and that sort of thing, or parties and events, but on lower value land, allowing activities which highlight agricultural use and environmental use in a proper way. So I won't be at that meeting, but I would encourage Councillor Vidal to perhaps highlight that as a concern, and making sure that we can celebrate agriculture in non-farm ways as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swymans. Any further discussion on correspondence? Seeing none, we'll move to the next item on our agenda, which is item 12, reports from councillors. Councillor Jackson, lead us off. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. On 16th of April, I attended the Fraser Valley Regional Library Board meeting. At that time, we approved the yearly budget and, of course, the audit report. I'm pleased to say that the library is in really good financial position. However, they are concerned now with the tariffs that the cost of books and digital books may skyrocket, so that's something they'll have to watch for in the present. I attended the 17th, the committee of the whole meeting. And one other thing, just before I wrap up, we have now started getting the parade entrance lined up for our big July the 1st day. So if you know anybody that wants to put a float in or anything at all, please let me know. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillors, any other reports from councillors? Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. April 10th, I attended a Lower Mainland LGA executive meeting. We're winding down to our conference next week. I believe that I have forwarded the full program and the confirmed program to Councillor. April 12th, I attended the celebration of life for Neil Brewer. It was a huge, huge turnout for an individual who worked tirelessly for search and rescue, not only locally, but on a provincial level also. April 17th, I attended a committee of the whole meeting. Once again, next week, I'll be attending the Lower Mainland Local Government Conference in Whistler. And just a little bit of a prior notice is Sunday, September 14th, will be the annual Terry Fox Run and Walk here once again in Harrison. Our run is now up on the Terry Fox Foundation website, where individuals have the opportunity to register and to donate. I will be have the honor of chairing the organizing committee this year for the run, and we will be having our first committee meeting early next month. Thank you, Mayor Talon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Fascio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Ditto on Councillor Vidal's comments about the service for Neil Brewer at the high school. I knew Neil for many, many, many years. He spoke a bit different to me because he came from up north, Lancashire boy, and I was a southern boy. We didn't always like each other. Don't know why. But he was a real gentleman. He really created and built that search and rescue from the bottom up, all the way to get into the actual boat that they have now. So God bless Neil. On the April the 3rd, I attended the Winter Bells donor and volunteer recognition event where all of us who had helped out to collect money for the community services, Blue Bucket, were recognized, and there were many volunteers at that evening, very nice, put on by the Hagassy Harrison Community Services. At the Fraser Valley Regional District on the April the 10th, there was a discussion on the Regional Zero Emissions Mobility Strategy. Emissions from the transportation sector are responsible for nearly 25% of fine particulate matter, PM2.5, over 85% of nitrogen oxides, and over 50% of greenhouse gas emissions within the region. Pollution produced locally is constrained in our sensitive airshed and impacts regional air quality. Identifying opportunities to reduce air emissions is a key strategy with the Fraser Valley Regional District. To support the objectives outlined, and the RGS, FVRD are collaborating with the City of Abbotsford and City of Chilliwack to develop a zero emissions mobility strategy, which includes the evaluation of electric vehicle infrastructure and other transportation changes. Another subject was a regional economic review and related initiatives. Regional economic review, regional commercial real estate market overview, regional industrial lands, and they also do a population estimated growth, looking at 2050, Harrison growing to 2,553 people, and the FVRD is the third most populated and one of the fastest growing regional districts in British Columbia, with an estimated population of 340,718. That was in 2021. So the FVRD makes up 11% of the Lower Mainland's population. The FVRD experienced steady population growth over the past few decades, with the most rapid period of growth occurring between 1971 and 2001. FVRD's population is expected to reach 500,000, with most growth contained within region's urban areas. So let's get prepared, folks. That's the end of my report. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Faccio. Councillor Swinburne.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Not a report necessarily, but just want to remind council and gallery and anybody who's listening that on next Saturday, on May 3rd, the Environmental Committee is hosting, along with staff in the village, the Earth Day in May. And we're very excited about this, and we're hoping to get a lot of the village out. There's going to be some static displays and some different booths. I think Miami River Steam Creepers are going to be there. I think Community in Bloom will be there, and a bunch of other displays. So please, let's get the community out. If the weather's good, it's going to be on the beachfront in the center there, and if it's raining, it'll be right in here. So look forward to seeing everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swinburne. Item 13 on our agenda is reports from Mayor. On April 12th, I attended the Miami River Stream Keepers annual general meeting. Interesting meeting, very meticulous, and it was interesting to sit in and participate in the conversation about the goals for the upcoming year. And I understand that a couple days after the AGM, they actually released salmon into the Miami River with the school. I attended on April 17th. I'm going to get the acronym correct. It's a CSC meeting, which is the Chilliwack Collaborative Community Services Committee. And that's sponsored, run by Fraser Health. And that was a follow-up meeting to a workshop that Councillor Fascio and I and CAO Cook attended several weeks ago, just following up on Fraser Health. And they noted on this call how they are looking forward to the primary care center being opened in Harrison, and made some good connections at that meeting, and people following up with calls about how that can work out well for the village. On earlier today, a volunteer appreciation lunch was hosted by the village here to thank a lot of the volunteers that help out with the village. A lot of our committee members and commission members attended, and it was a nice way to thank them for their time and lending their expertise and their knowledge to help the village. So that was a nice afternoon. And that is all I'm going to report on tonight. Agenda item 14 is reports and minutes from committees and commissions. And there are several. Corporate officer, do we need these one at a time or the first three together?
Thank you. If you'd like, you can take the first three together as they're for information, and then the last item there is just a quick report.
Can I have a motion to adopt the minutes from the A, B, and C, the Advisory and Planning Commission, Committees in Bloom, and Resort Development Strategy Committee meeting
So moved,
minutes?
Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And those minutes are adopted. Or adopted minutes are received for information. Item D, Corporate Officer.
Thank you. For item D, I have a report on behalf of the Communities in Bloom Committee. So if you turn to page 39 of your agenda packages, this report should look very similar to the one that was reviewed last week by Council, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, regarding the Environmental Advisory Committee's terms of reference. So this is the same thing, just updating the terms of reference, again, to be in line with the newly adopted Council Procedure Bylaw. And so the recommendation is that Council approve the following recommendation from the Communities in Bloom Committee: that the updated Communities in Bloom Committee terms of reference be endorsed as amended by correcting Section 4C so that it references Section 4A, not 3A. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that motion carries unanimously. Corporate Officer or CAO, reports from staff.
Our next item is item 15A, report of Chief Administrative Officer regarding the first quarter report.
Go ahead, CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I do, I would like to thank, on behalf of my team, thank Council. We would like to sincerely thank you for your continued support, and along with staff, or allowing staff the space and trust to carry out our roles effectively. Your direction and confidence enables us to do our jobs with purpose and clarity, and it is truly appreciated. As you can see from this report, there has been a lot accomplished in the first 3 months of the year. I'm not going to go through it verbatim. I'll highlight a few of the key components of this report for Council's ease. Firstly, I would like to identify the fact that the staff had established a mock EOC with our coordinator Ryan Chirot, Chief Genest, and Captain Yosting. It was a learning lesson for all 6 of us, and there were some key recommendations that came out of our experience there. And one was training, and is to establish quarterly or seasonal in-person training, which we are happy to do so, and familiarity. Access was an issue. We couldn't even get in the building because we didn't have a code. So, and setting up all of the technology was, it created a challenge. So that was a great opportunity for us to identify that. And then also the recommendation was to provide a startup guide for the EOC. And the conclusion from moving forward was ongoing training and functional testing is essential to the success of a EOC. Under the community services, we hosted multiple open houses for the village master plans, parks, trails, and waterfront dike projects. And also the fuel management along Spirit Trail was completed. And under communications, we initiated the council catch-up, which provides high-level meeting highlights. And also one quite interesting one is the social media statistics, looking at all of the amount of interaction that we've had with the public on our websites and social media. Under finance, we were successfully adopted our 25 to 29 financial plan. Some exciting news for Maze. We're looking at a citizens service platform that will improve the public's access to their taxation information. We're hopeful that it will be launched in Q2. They're just in the testing stages of that. Under corporate services, there were 6 bylaws drafted during the first 3 months, and then also provided 11 committee meetings and commission meetings, and then we received 6 FOI requests. Under operations, we will be seeing construction for Highway 9 for the drainage in this summer coming up, and we're cognizant of the fact that we want to ensure that there's minimal effect to visitors and residents for that project. I want to highlight water treatment plant master plan that the project was awarded to McElhaney Limited at a cost of $68,619. The water treatment master plan was also awarded to McElhaney at a cost of $47,420. Under the primary care facility renovations, we awarded the project to Kurtz Construction at a cost of $156,730. The Miami Bridge utility relocation, which is now complete, we did issue that to Jake's Construction at a cost of $183,500. And the Miami River Bridge abutment replacements have been awarded to West Shore Constructors at a cost of $468,536, and we're anticipating hopefully they'll be done at the end of April. Everything's looking to be on track. Into the public works, we were excited to purchase a Ford Lightning at a cost of $54,342.50 from MSA Ford. The fire department, as you can see, there was a list of educational opportunities for multiple. You can see that majority of our fire department team is all trained up, and the one key component from there was the amount of 70 calls for service, which is 40 more than last year. Under planning and development, we're seeing 8 building permits that are active right now. We have 2 subdivision applications, 2 rezoning applications, 1 OCP redesignation, interim housing report was completed, and then also the new development approval information and the development procedures bylaw and advisory planning commission bylaws were adopted in the first quarter. And in the first quarter of for under bylaw, we had 10 bylaw complaints, which have been mostly related to property maintenance. So for council's consideration is that the Chief Administrative Officer's report dated April 22nd, 2025, regarding the CIO 2025 first quarter update be received for information.
Move, your worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion. Councillor Faccio.
Thank you, your worship. First of all, I want to thank the CEO and his staff for a great report that brings us up. Gives us a good education on what's going on in the community this is another way of proving how a good communication, when you're having your staff carrying out their duties as they're supposed to carry out their duties, and council carrying out their duties as mandated, how the team comes together and works together. And since the by-election, the whole village has changed in regards to moving things forward. This whole report just proves that. And I really again want to thank the staff and of course our council who stand behind them for an outstanding report. And this is good for our community because it proves that we're moving forward, not backwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Faccio. Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I might echo part of what Councillor Fascio said. CEO opened his discussion by thanking us, but you know, when I look at these pages and what's been done here, this is the first quarterly report that I've seen here. I don't recall seeing one in January, but this just shows you what's been accomplished. It's just amazing. We forget sometimes in the day-to-day what we're talking about and what we're accomplishing. And most of this, quite frankly, the public wouldn't be aware of because it's things that keep the things running that we all take for granted. My heartfelt thanks to the staff that are here in front of us. And also, you know, I walk every day and I see the operations folks on the sidewalks, cleaning hydrants and digging ditches and cutting grass. You know, they're the lifeblood of our community, and they're to be thanked as well. There's such hardworking guys and gals out there that work for our community, and this just shows it. So I'd like to see you publish this, and thank you for the summary. It's great.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Through you to our CAO, thank you. I do want to let you know that your work does not go unnoticed by council, and perhaps sometimes we're not always on top of what goes on, and we're reluctant in giving kudos where kudos are deserved. Know that your council stands behind you and supports you. And I want to thank you personally, whenever I have a question for any member of our staff, you are always more than willing to take the time to answer my questions and explain things to me, especially Jace. I'm afraid I am not an engineer and often need that clarity on a level that I can understand. So thank you all once again. Good job.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Yes, thank you for the report. I read it over the weekend, and there's a lot going on. And my first conversation with our CAO this morning when I got to the office was, are you going to read the whole report? Because we're going to have a long meeting because you've been so busy over the last 3 months. So that's an impressive amount of work from staff, and it's certainly appreciated. I did draw, my attention was drawn to the mock tabletop exercise, activating the EOC Center. I was there for part of the day, and yeah, that was a really interesting experience, and the village staff work well together from what I saw there in very unfamiliar roles and responsibilities and settings, and I see the conclusions here for ongoing training and developing a manual. I think we're well served, and getting that expertise and knowledge is certainly helpful for the whole village if we have to respond in an emergency and activate the EOC Center. EOC, it is a center. And Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you very much. I look at this report and I really wish that our senior levels of government could organize themselves to put out reports like this, where everybody can understand them and we can move forward. our staff has done a great job, and maybe we could pass this on to the higher-ups, and it might help them to trying to decide what they're going to do for our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Any further discussion on the CAO's quarterly report? I'll call a vote on the motion then. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Next item, Corporate Officer.
The next item is item 15B, report of our Community Services Manager regarding the Resort Development Strategy.
Community Services Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. In early 2025, the Village's Resort Development Strategy, RDS, committee began meeting to discuss opportunities for the upcoming funding term. This committee consisted of the Executive Director of Tourism Harrison River Valley, the Board Chair from Tourism Harrison River Valley, the Community Services Manager from the Village, Mayor Tallon, and Councillor Jackson. On the recommendation of the committee, a representative from the Harrison-Agassiz Chamber of Commerce Board was also appointed. The province provided the municipality with the Resort Development Strategy Guide for the upcoming term. This guide outlines the requirements and objectives of the Resort Municipality Initiative Program. Utilizing this guide, the RDS Committee discussed tourism projects and initiatives that would support the program goals and align with Council's strategic plan. Proposed projects supported by the RDS Committee include a splash pad, streetscape enhancements, interpretive signage, pay parking infrastructure, tourism events, McCombs Drive recreation, and parks and trails enhancement. While the RMI program is based around tourism, RMI projects and infrastructure bring many benefits to residents within the village. Several of the outdoor-based recreation opportunities proposed will incorporate recommendations made during the Parks and Trails Master Plan process and other feedback received from community engagement sessions. The RDS Committee also highlighted the importance of a long-term tourism plan, and staff will be determining the best way to work towards the creation of that. It is unknown at this time the exact funding that will be received by the province through the RMI program. The draft RDS is being submitted based on the average that we have received in recent years. Staff will then work with the province to adjust project plans and report any changes back to the RDS committee. So the draft resort development strategy is attached to the package, and there is a recommendation that council approve the draft 2020-25 to 26 / 2027-28 resort development strategy to be submitted to the province.
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon, through you to our Community Services Manager. Thank you. Thank you for your work on this. Just one question. If it is passed by council this evening, am I correct then that you will forward that to the province for their consideration? And they will allocate the amount of funding that we are to receive? And when you do submit to the province, do you have to give real sort of like detailed on projects or potential projects? And is it the province that approves that, or does that come back to council for approval? Thank you.
Community Services Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Through you to Councillor Vital. We submit the project outlines. That's the province's template that is attached there. That is the amount of information that they require in order to approve the projects in concept. We typically find out each year what our base funding is for that year. Those announcements usually come out sort of midway. So would likely, we've just sort of put these budget numbers in these projects, but there is a chance that we would receive more funding, ideally, not less, than those numbers that are there. So then we can work with the province on making any adjustments as we need to. Did that answer your questions? CAO?
Yeah.
If I may, Your Worship, it's just for council's knowledge, because the RDS is new, we do have, I just want to confirm with Scott, did we put monies into this year's budget in the event that we do get our funding this year?
Yes, we have not put the budgetary items in for the projects. However, we put the operating items such as the contribution to the events in the budget.
Yes, thank you. So just so if we're to move forward with the project this year specifically, we will need to come back to council for approval to be able to put that back into the budget. And also the committee will be involved in that as well.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. A couple of questions, if I could, to Community Service Manager. I'm curious, is it, and I need to learn more about this, but is it $1 in, $1 out? Like, are we getting our full value when we collect RMI funds? Are we allowed to spend everything that we get, or are we allocated a certain amount by the province to us?
Community Services Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Through you to Councillor Schweinbenz. This funding goes to the province from a variety, just out of their like typical budget. The MRDT is a separate fund that comes directly from the hotels in this region, and that is facilitated through the DMO, Tourism Harrison River Valley. So the amount that each RMI community gets for the RMI program is independent of the MRDT, which is the local hotel tax.
And then, thank you, Mayor Talon. Question about process as well, because we're going to be not approving, but approving in concept some things that may be controversial. So when something like the splash pad, as an example, or a Frisbee golf course is going to be approved financially, will council have input onto its design and placement and viability and all that? I'm not sure who can answer that question.
CAO Cook.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Essentially, council, the adoption of this RDS is kind of council's opportunity for the design side. Once we get, we use this, as I always seem to use this term, but as our guiding document, we have, it's part of the strategy. But when it comes down to the design and ultimate final product, it is staff's role to work with consultants to be able to realize that. But as I mentioned before, this year specifically, if there are some projects that we're going to be coming forward, not necessarily with respect to the design, we'll present that to council, but the budgetary item will need to be approved by council.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Schweinbenz.
Sorry, thank you, Mayor Talon. Thanks for your answers. I read this with great interest, and I didn't know that this was our first stab at an RDS committee. I wasn't aware that it was brand new. Is that that's the case? Because I read the report and I read the minutes to the that the committee presented here tonight, and I'm just wondering if it's run like what maybe we need to update the terms of reference. There doesn't seem to be any voting going on. There's discussion about a whole lot of things, but it doesn't seem to be chaired and motions voted on like most committees. So I'm just wondering if it's handcuffed at all. And these comments may sound negative, but I just want to make sure that going forward we can maybe be more effective and constructive committee. I know that a lot of hard work gone into this. This may sound negative, but I just want to make sure it's held accountable. I'd like to see a more diverse group in there. You've got politicians, you've got staff, and you've got people from tourism. I personally would like to see someone from First Nations involved, so maybe some more lay people with some different ideas and different perspectives to lend some more ideas to it. I'd like to also see more of a long-term vision. I understand that we have to work 3 years out in 3-year increments, but it'd be great to have a 5, 10, 25-year strat plan for tourism if it's going to be an important part, because looking 3 years ahead is, I think, handcuffs us to short-term thinking. Also, I understand that this committee is only struck up every 3 years when we need to submit a report. Maybe it should be continuating every year, meet a few times every year to respond to different needs and to come up with different ideas and that sort of thing. I'd also like to see more events in the shoulder season, events that take care of or that lend itself to our natural environment, more wind sports, more water sports, more boating sports. We need to get more people staying overnight, more high-value tourists here, and I think there's other ways to do this. So I'm just wondering if maybe down the line we could look at terms of reference. Council and people involved could look at terms of reference. And again, I don't need to sound negative. A lot of hard work went into this. It's a fantastic report. I'm a supportive of these ideas. I just want to make sure going forward that we can make it more accountable and more actionable and more diverse. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swinebentz. It is a committee of council, so it was chaired, in this case, by myself, and I did the best I could. There were motions, they were voted on, and minutes were taken. The discussion in the committee was robust, and no one was muted or people. It was genuinely a lot of brainstorming in those meetings. And the product of that brainstorming, discussions about short-term, long-term impacts, and all that kind of vision, working within the parameters of the RMI funding, which the province does set a number of rules and restrictions on what can be done. So yeah, it was a report that was put together. There were a lot of ideas that were batted around, and a lot of work behind the scenes, probably more than I realize on staff, trying to find out if the dreams of council, their wishes and aspirations were actually realistically achievable, and what the budget might be on that. So yeah, the Tourism Harrison is represented on the committee, as well as the Chamber of Commerce. So it was a fairly broad spectrum of input from the Harrison area. I see a number of hands come up. Councillor Jackson, I know you had your hand up as well.
Thank you, Worship. Maybe there's a bit of mix-up here. The Resort Development RMI is basically use money for what we call tourism infrastructure. They're not involved basically in, it's Tourism Harrison that's out trying to fill the beds. So there are two separate items here. And at the beginning with the RMI, going back to 2007, the use of that money was very restricted. However, we were able to build a plaza and other things by using that money. And now, of course, we have a broader concept, but the two are separate. And that's where sometimes it gets confusing. Tourism, RMI, RDS is two different things. Objectives are the same, but they're done differently.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. CEO Cook, I think you had a comment. Do you still?
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. And I'm not trying to respond as if you're, in a negative way in a response. But I have to say I was part of every one of these meetings, well, as ones that I could attend. And there was a lot accomplished in a very short period of time with this committee. I'm hearing what you're saying, and we recognize that when those opportunities are available, we certainly will explore those. But I have, again, I'll reiterate that I thank Mayor Tallon and Councillor Jackson for their time, because there was multiple meetings, and also the committee members. There were multiple meetings, a lot of great ideas, and the final report is a wonderful document that was prepared by our team, Christy and Kaylee, and obviously it was almost all hands on deck for this project, actually. But yeah, again, I want to thank the committee for their hard work, and I look forward to seeing some of these projects realized.
Thank you, CEO Cook. Obviously, terms of reference can come up at any time to review in the future. So if we wanted to, for the next go-round, look at the terms of reference for any of our committees, including this one, they can always be reconsidered. I do have a question for our community services manager. Kind of midway or towards the end of the committee meetings, in sort of a bit of a brainstorming session, from from several conversations that sort of pulled together. There was a concept or an idea concerning enhancements to the sprinklers and water display show coming out of the lagoon. It came up late, and I know this is a draft report that's going to the province, and there's a to and fro before it gets finalized. My question is, those ideas, and there may not have been sufficient time for staff to really dig in and see if they're realistic or what the opportunities might be. Where would I find that idea, or is it something that's going to come before the report is finalized? If you could help out, Community Service Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Yes, absolutely. There was a couple similar concepts, but in turn, once we started investigating some of those companies, they seemed to be either, there were some that would add to the lagoon, and then there were others that would be a new infrastructure location site somewhere else requiring water supply and a bit more detail to go into the planning behind it. So we did have the cost estimates to add additional fountains on either side of the existing one with some lights on there. But then it went back to that long-term tourism strategy that we were talking about at the last meeting. And then really, I think it was tried to express from one of the committee members, sort of like that showstop project, which did feel like it would be a bit of a rush to try and get enough quotes or information for this deadline that we have. But we, as you said, there will be the back and forth, and we can still continue to pursue some of those depending on which avenue you'd like to have more details on.
Thank you, Community Service Manager. That's helpful. I don't want that idea to drift off the edge of the table and not be seen again. So I know it came up late in the process. Certain committee members were very enthusiastic for it, but there are practical realities and probably more research and a little bit more work on the back end to understand if it's actually practical, feasible, or what the implications are would be helpful. Councillor Pacho.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to say that prior to 2005, all we had in Harrison was an information centre, basically, and a Chamber of Commerce. Then when my colleague to second left, as a citizen approached me and said, on my Economic Development Committee, let's get into the hotel tax. We started knocking on doors. And he created himself Tourism Harrison, which started in 2006. They got the first funding, and in 2007, we got our first funding of 2%. And I have to say, without Tourism Harrison, we wouldn't be where we are today, or even the amount of business that comes into the community. Looking at one of their reports where it says how much their social media links have increased with the people inquiring and everything else. And on page 62 and 64 of the reports, it gives some of the outlines of what Councillor Schweinbenz was referring to. It's pretty much outlined the future and going forward. And I believe the restriction on the 3-year, and not trying to look beyond the 3 years, is that we don't really have no guarantee that we're going to keep receiving this hotel tax. I know Councillor Jackson remember back when the minister had found out that some of the communities were not using the money correctly, or they were putting it in their banks without using it, that she was going to take it away totally and go through applying for a funding, which we were dead against. We fought tooth and nail, the 14 communities, to change that. So it's a funding we don't know. It could finish you know, it's just grateful it's because everything that you see in the village is all through virtually I call it the hotel tax. That's the easiest way. Some people don't know what RMI is or MRDT is, but, and just to finish off, as our manager of community services says, 2 taxes. No, we do not give money or sign the checks from the mayor to Tourism Harrison. It's two separate. They get their share from the province and we get our share from the province. We don't hand over the village money to Tourism Harrison. The MRDT is theirs and the other is the village. So it's out there that the mayor or staff sign our money over to that's a load of garbage. Sorry for the word garbage, Your Worship. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you, Community Services Manager and our Communications Engagement Coordinator. Next item, Corporate Officer.
The next item is report of Community Services Manager regarding Public Alerting System Policy number 1.40.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. In reviewing the village's emergency planning documents, it was identified that the village did not have a public alerting system policy to guide the use of the alerting system that the village subscribes to, which is Alertable. Staff reviewed the public alerting system use policies from the District of Kent and the Fraser Valley Regional District and have included similar guidelines in the village's policy while ensuring that differences in organizational structures are reflected. This policy will guide staff in their authority to issue public alerts for important messaging. This aligns with the 2025 to 2026 strategic plan priorities of public safety. And the recommendation is that Council adopt Public Alerting System Policy number 1.40.
Thank you, Community Services Manager. Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Swinebenz. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. Next item, Corporate Officer.
Our next item is a report from our Communications and Community Engagement Coordinator regarding the Rainbow Crosswalk.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. At the February 3rd, 2025 regular council meeting, the following resolutions were passed. That staff be directed to research a suitable location and cost to install a rainbow crosswalk in the village and report back to council. And that staff research other possible options in addition to the crosswalk to recognize and support the 2SL LGBTQI+ community. At the March 3rd, 2025 regular council meeting, a resolution directing staff to develop a formal anti-racism, anti-discrimination policy to provide a framework for reporting and responding to discrimination and racism was also passed. Rainbow crosswalks are public art installations that are intended to create a sense of understanding and belonging of the two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual plus community, and are typically implemented as an initial response to a call for advocacy and action towards increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion within communities. In March 2024, staff contacted suppliers for a quotation for the supply and installation of a rainbow crosswalk using thermoplastic material. The estimated cost for the supply and installation is $14,500, excluding GST. Additional considerations not included in the quote include 2 inches of new asphalt and any fees associated with traffic management. Prior to installing a pride flag crosswalk or other public art installations that support DEI initiatives, staff recommend that the village develop a DEI guiding framework and plan that identifies opportunities and best practices to support the safe inclusion of equity-seeking groups in the village. The development of a DEI framework and plan would be complementary to the village's anti-racial discrimination and anti-racism policy, which are currently being developed by staff for future consideration by council. And so the recommendation before council is that staff be directed to develop a diversity, equity, and inclusion framework and plan for the village.
Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. I know there will be discussion on this. I'm going to kick it off. a couple of observations. The first is I did notice on social media very negative comments naming out village staff in regards to this agenda item. I have a problem with that. Obviously, staff can't respond in social media when people are criticizing them. And also, staff are taking direction from ourselves as council. So if there's criticism, it should be directed at council. If there's problems with performance of our staff, they can be directed to myself or the CAO. The other part that I read in some social media posting was, and I don't know how to put this, it seemed to impart that the author was somehow biased, referred to the author multiple times, and it struck me as sort of, and probably these are the wrong words, but sort of casually discriminatory, that it would talk about she and young, and with the implication that whatever comes next isn't worthy of reading. And I guess that's exactly why we're looking at an anti-racism and anti-discrimination policy and perhaps a DEI framework as recommended here. So that was difficult to read this weekend, and but I look forward to the debate and the discussion we'll have in council on this matter right now. Any other comments? Councillor Vital, I believe you have something.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I concur with your remarks, and I ask council bear with me while I share a few of my thoughts. A DEI framework is geared towards fostering fair treatment and full participation of everyone. I believe this is a value that our village embraces. Diversity refers to an environment where race, gender, age, sexual orientation, disability, and socioeconomic conditions are valued and embraced. Equity involves ensuring fair treatment, access, and opportunities for all individuals. It acknowledges that barriers exist and seeks to identify and eliminate barriers which have prevented full participation for everyone. It's about leveling the playing field. Inclusion means creating an environment in which any individual or group is felt welcomed, respected, supported, and valued. In a tourism community, a DEI framework and plan brings together people from different cultures, languages, and backgrounds. It creates a space where both our residents and visitors feel safe and feel valued. It ensures that all amenities and services are accessible to people with disabilities. I fully support the recommendation, but I do want to add that I have some concerns regarding the implementation of a rainbow crosswalk. Unfortunately, crosswalks can be targets for vandalizing or hate-motivated damage, causing considerable funds for maintenance and repairs. Also, weather damage from heat, rain, snow, and ice can require constant maintenance. There are other alternatives, and some communities have embraced banners, which are viewed as being less politicized, yet still supportive and visible, which could be branded with our village and tourism messaging. So therefore, I would request that staff continue to research other options prior to council making a final decision. Thank you, Mayor Tallon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Pacho.
Just a brief comment, Your Worship, that's all I'm going to say. I echo both your words and what you just put out there. Staff cannot defend themselves. is for us to defend our staff. And I've stood that steadfast for 29 years. I think it's terrible when you start pulling away at your staff who are doing an incredible job for this community. So I just want to put it out there that we're here to do the best job we can for our community, but also to protect our staff at all levels. They're not here to take any abuse or bad sayings or language, or whatever type of writing you want to put down there. I will not stand for it personally. I know none of us sitting around here will stand for it. I'm really annoyed about this. I apologize for my tone, but thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fatcho. Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. And I support the motion, and I support the comments from my fellow councillors. I too read this and I had some mixed feelings about it. I don't think we're the kind of village that needs something like this, but I don't see why we wouldn't. In fact, people who, I've been approached on the street by 3 or 4 people who are dead set against any sidewalk or any paintings or any banners or anything to do with this. And well, they're representative of kind of like we are at council. They're white, middle-aged, and they're not disadvantaged and all that sort of thing. So we are here to protect everybody and welcome everybody and show love for everybody. The suicide rate and drug use rate of people who we are trying to protect is exceedingly high compared to the rest of the population. And we can send a signal out to the community and to tourism and to residents and to tourists that we welcome everybody, no matter of all stripes and any persuasion, whether it be a sidewalk or a banner. I'm supportive of all of that. I'm not concerned about the costs. I think whether it's white or yellow or orange, it's going to be rubbed off or scraped off, vandalized. I think we can take a stand as a village, and I'm supportive of the recommendation. I would ask, though, I'm wondering if perhaps to save time and money, does UBCM or does the province already have some framework in mind that we could plagiarize a little bit? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. CEO Cook.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are multiple communities throughout the Lower Mainland in the province that have these policies. And I would like to say there are specific reasons why these policies need to be in place, and I think we have evidence of that. I do want to thank Kaylee for her report, because the ridicule that it received online was not fair. It was not very well thought out. And I want to thank council for their support for staff as well. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Cook. Any further discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Next item, Corporate Officer.
Thank you. We're moving on to bylaws. We have a report from our Chief Financial Officer regarding tax rate bylaw number 1221, 2025.
CFO.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm here tonight to request 3 readings of the 2025 tax rate bylaw. So based on the 2025 budget, the amount needed to be raised by property taxes for municipal purposes is about $3.05 million. On an annual basis, council must establish tax rates to levy funds for municipal, regional district, and regional hospital district purposes. For municipal purposes, the village has 3 rate classes of property with assessed values. So the following is the breakdown of tax revenue by class. The first one is residential, and that is approximately 68% of the total tax revenue, followed by business, which is about 26%, followed by recreational and nonprofit, which is about 5%. In the bylaw attached to your package tonight, there's 2 schedules. Schedule A is the tax rates for the 2025 general municipal purposes. And then in Schedule B, you'll find the regional district and regional hospital district tax rates, which are collected by the village and then forwarded on to the FVRD at that point. So the recommendations tonight is that tax rate bylaw number 1221 2025 be introduced and given first reading, and then that tax rate bylaw number 1221, 2025 be given second and third readings. Thank you.
Move first reading, Your Worship.
First reading moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Vital. All in favor? That carries unanimously. The second part of the motion is second and third reading of the 2021 tax bylaw. Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion to that motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that too carries unanimously. Thank you, CFO. Next item, Corporate Officer.
Thank you. The next item is new business, and we have new business from Councillor Vital, which was brought forward as a notice of motion at the last regular council meeting, and the recommendation is that the Village of Harrison Hot Springs waive all fees and charges related to hosting the Terry Fox Run.
Move, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion to that motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That carries unanimously as well. Corporate Officer, we're on item 18, notices of motion. I gave you information that I intended to give a notice of a motion for our next council meeting. Would you read that out, please?
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. So I have a notice of motion here from Mayor Tallon, which will appear as new business on the next regular council meeting agenda. Whereas the Village of Harrison Hot Springs is at risk of flooding from Harrison Lake, and whereas the existing dike along Harrison Lake does not meet provincial standards, and whereas the District of Kent dikes A, B, and C are designed and built to the 1894 flood profile, the Village of Harrison Hot Springs is not at risk of flooding from the south from the Fraser River unless the District of Kent dike system fails. And whereas the existing dike along Harrison Lake in Harrison Hot Springs is 13.9 meters above sea level, and whereas the 1894 flood of record, Harrison Lake reached 14.1 meters above sea level, and whereas to meet provincial standards, the Harrison Lake dike needs to be 15.1 meters above sea level, and whereas if the dike project is not pursued, the ability to obtain flood insurance for improvements to properties in Harrison Hot Springs may be compromised, and provincial and federal disaster relief assistance may be harder to obtain, and such assistance may not fully cover costs associated with rebuilding after a flood. Now, therefore, Council resolves to proceed with the dike project, complying with provincial standards, a dike height of 15.1 meters, to protect the Village of Harrison Hot Springs from flooding from Harrison Lake. Council resolves to pursue flood protection from Harrison Lake with a combination of fixed, permanent flood protection structures and deployable flood protection structures. Council resolves that the above resolutions are subject to the dike project must minimize fixed, permanent features on the existing dike that would adversely affect the current view of Harrison Lake from Esplanade Avenue. The dike project must maximize maintaining the existing views of Harrison Lake from Esplanade Avenue. Construction necessary to complete the dike project should avoid, to the greatest extent possible, heavy construction during July and August, and traffic disruptions and reductions in parking on Esplanade Avenue, and also subject to providing residents with the opportunity to provide input on where the deployable sections of the dike will be and where the fixed, permanent sections of the dike will be once a deployable system or systems have been selected, and that Council resolve to direct staff to return to Council with recommendations concerning a deployable system or systems flood protection systems and where fixed and deployable systems will be located.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. I don't think it just is a notice of motion, and I'm sure we'll get ample opportunity to speak to it at our next council meeting. Just to note, the information we had at our Committee of the Whole meeting, that will be posted on the website for public review and also part of the council package. Is that correct? Seeing nods from CEO Cook.
Sorry, Your Worship. Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. I guess that takes us to item 19 on our agenda, which is question period on items relevant to the agenda. Are there any questions tonight from anyone in the gallery? Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ooh, that's loud. I'll back off a little bit. John Allen, 398 Hot Springs Road. I'd just like to question why we're doing this rainbow crosswalk thing at a time when we're not fulfilling our obligations to the public, both pedestrian and vehicular, on public safety, because we have not yet installed proper black and white crosswalks throughout the village as we are supposed to do by law, following the Motor Vehicle Act standards. And I was happy to be able to achieve at least the 3 crosswalks at the plaza last year, but all up and down the Esplanade and elsewhere, we are not well served by crosswalks. And my question is, why would council want to spend $20,000 on a ceremonial colored crosswalk before you've spent the money necessary to build the crosswalks that clarify for drivers and pedestrians who has the right to use that particular piece of road? And I'm not against rainbow crosswalks, and I make no apology for Harrison. I think we've been one of the most tolerant communities in the Fraser Valley to gay people, to people from all races in the past. And I've never seen that type of whatever you're worried about happening in this village. It's been a very tolerant village, and I hope it continues to be so. So my question is, why would you not do the things you're supposed to be doing as a council, which is put in proper crosswalks that deal with public safety, and maybe after that's done, you can talk about virtue signaling with colored crosswalks for whatever group you want. But the basics are public safety. And that was a question that I'm not aware of the discussion that the mayor has referred to on social media. Maybe I'm not reading the right Facebook pages, but I'm not aware of any of that. And because the mayor has spoken in some kind of riddles, maybe it would be good to clarify where those can be found and who said them and what the problem is with them. I've been a little busy in Vancouver for the last couple of weeks in court, and I've lost touch with some of that. The other thing that bothers me about the RMI project tonight, I'm asking, when is the opportunity for members of the public and the business community to have input into this? It sounds to me very much like a fait accompli. You've approved it tonight, and it's over to staff, and now it's mind your own business time for councillors and the public. And I think that is just reprehensible, because there are many opportunities for improvement to our tourism infrastructure in Harrison, which are being ignored in this report. Many pressing opportunities, and I just don't see it as fulfilling our immediate needs. Anyway, my question is, why is this being pushed ahead so quickly without sufficient public input? And I'd like an answer to that at some point. Thank you.
I think there are several questions there. Council tonight directed staff to come back with a diversity, equity, and inclusion policy framework that might help inform whether there's a crosswalk or some other way of doing that. So there's no decision on that, rather direction on a diversity, equity, inclusion framework. Regarding the RMI funding, it was a committee of council. The committee meetings were public. They were open, I think, open to the public, and I think some of them were even live streamed on Zoom, if I recall. And yeah, there were opportunities for the public to chip in that way. Your concerns about the business community not being represented, well, the Chamber of Commerce had a representative on the committee, and that individual was an active and enthusiastic participant. Are there any questions from anyone participating remotely tonight, Tyler?
Anyone on Zoom, if you have a question, just raise your hand. No questions. Oh, sorry, we do have one question, Your Worship, from Michael. Michael, I'm just going to unmute you here. You should be allowed to, should be good to unmute yourself now.
Oh, okay. Good night. Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Appreciate the hard work. I was hearing about the messing around with the east sector and turning it into a frisbee golf thing. I moved here from I lived in West End. I lived in West Van. I have an apartment in Shaughnessy. And I'll tell you, nobody uses those golf those frisbee golf things. And I guess I hope that within the reporting, as we continue, we have more information. There was no notices on McCombs. I'm sure more people would come out if that was the case. About messing with the east sector. It may not be the case, but some of us feel like, you know, it's just a matter of having developers in there. 5 years ago, you know, someone went in there and cut stumps, and we were going on about how there's endangered species in there of plants and animals, and it's a climate, a climatized area where it causes a coolness underneath the mountain, which brings rainfall. I'm just completely against messing with that area. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question, Michael, and noting your preference to leave the east sector lands as they are. Obviously, the work, this is a draft resource development strategy, and one of the proposals that came up was a disc course in the east sector. A lot of conversations have to be had, I think, with the Agricultural Land Committee, whether or not that's even a permitted activity, and if so, if there are restrictions on what that might look like. But thank you for participating tonight, taking the time to listen to the council meeting and share your views. Thank you. Mr. Webster.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Earlier I heard Councillor Swinban's mention involving First Nations in the Resort Development Committee. I think that was a good introduction. I think it should be heartfelt, and I think they should be involved in more committees sitting upon them. And I think they would have a lot of good input. And I think it's something that we should maybe think about. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Motion to adjourn from Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion to the motion. I'll call the vote. All in favor, and we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.